And I know it's you've all got busy lives, so we will move through this fairly swiftly. But I think it certainly highlights from Marcus's overview of incident command, and one of the questions that's come in from Mark is, that criticality of information, the source of information, the speed of information, to ensure that the first 15 minutes, really, which is the most critical time, that the incident commander is able to access the information they need to make those right decisions. So next slide, please, Anna. So just a very brief overview. How did we arrive, and what was the driver behind Asset Tagged, and more to the point, FireIE, which is an offshoot of Asset Tagged. So my background is very much ISO management system, legal compliance, fire risk management. Worked with a lot of different companies, commercial sectors, heavy and light engineering, manufacturing. One of the key things that post-Grenfell, and I think we're all familiar with, and it's been well documented and well covered, obviously, the outputs of the Hackett report, the golden thread, which is, well, how do we actually achieve it? Because being a lead auditor for things like information security as well and software, there are lots of different applications out there, and it was very clear to me at the very beginning of this journey, when developing FireIE, is how are we going to make this work, and how do we ensure that those that are already embedded with other maybe advanced robust management systems like the building information modeling systems that the industry uses, how do we ensure it can weave in and build upon that proven methodology? So next slide, please, Anna. So as we said, the golden thread Hackett report is, we all appreciate and we all understand now that we need this thread of information from construction, pre-construction design, right the way through to end life cycle. But I think that's easier said than done, and I think it's certainly achievable when you're looking at new build and new design, because it's being developed from the get-go. But let's face it, a lot of our assets in the UK are post 1950s, 60s, so there's a lot of retrospective work and information that simply doesn't exist, and we are not going to wave a magic wand and say that we're going to be able to get this 100% right overnight, because this is going to take years to remedy. But the key thing is that single source of truth, and for them, a fire perspective and the information that's contained within an information or fire information exchange system needs to be updated. And I think, again, most of the people on this call will be very much aware that there are, advanced building information modeling systems out there in the marketplace. They do a great job, but it's how do we get the in-between, and how do we integrate those applications when it comes to focusing more on digital assets and the life cycle of those digital assets. So we've, before really embarking on the journey of even going down the route of FireIE, it was really taking close looks at documentation like BS 86441, which is really an extension of the BS or ISO 1965 standard, but also utilising the methodology for PAS 79 publicly available standards, specifically around fire risk management. So how do we do it? How do we look to achieve this? Before we went down the route of designing, I think it was back to basics, and let's not try and reinvent the wheel. Let's try and come up with a solution that works. So next slide, please, Anna. So first of all, setting our own objectives. What's the objective of the information in exchange? Well, it's to provide the right information to the right people at the right time, make sure that things like hazards and the potential for risk mitigation are clearly visible at every stage through the life cycle of a building asset. And that's going to be simply through the inbuilt tools that we've developed following PAS 79 in the risk assessment tools built into FireIE, but also making sure that we've got tasks, because I think the biggest challenges a lot of our clients face, and from what I've seen, it's not necessarily being identified what the hazards are, but it's having that planned preventative maintenance and our program and our management system that sits behind how you actually achieve that. So very much tracking from the point of view of raising something in an audit right the way through to closing out any non-conformities that may arise through the life cycle of that building, and understanding and being able to provide clear understanding of the technical information, whether that be technical drawings, provided by the architect, schematics, water systems, and drainage systems, for example, for runoff, it needs to be contained within the system. So next slide, please, Anna. So as I mentioned before, our background is very much around ISO systems, and many of you will be familiar with ISO management systems, whether that be quality, health, safety, environment, information security, but it all hinges really on the Plan, Do, Check, Act system. So before really trying to develop a fire information exchange, well, let's look at a methodology that's proven and tested for management of all other areas of our working lives. And in the same way, we adopt those management systems and the high-level structure Annex SL to achieve that. So next slide, please, Anna. And what I mean by the Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle, some of you may not be familiar with this, but you can see Plan, Do, Check, Act at the very top, but then we have clauses 4 right the way through to 10, which is mirroring all ISO standards. So whether that be your quality management or health and safety management system. So really looking at clause 4 is everything to do with the building, the structure of the building, the location of the building, the square meterage, who the interested parties needs and expectation, whether that be regulatory, whether that be residents, for example. So that's really how we start to capture the information in the application. Going through to clause 5, which is all about leadership and commitment, because let's face it, it's going to take leadership and commitment at the very senior levels to put the resources and the money behind what needs to be done in order to achieve the outcomes, which is going to be better, robust information made available to the emergency services and those that have a stake in the organisation to be able to get that information when they need it. And an extension of that is making sure the leadership team implement really and authorise the roles and responsibilities of those that are going to be tasked with achieving that, and having a mechanism to consult with and participate with not just individuals that may be workers, but also occupants in the building. So clause 6 is very much around risk identification, which is your risk assessment, your general fire risk assessment, but then more how are we going to achieve the outcomes or any of the points raised in the risk assessment. 7 is all about resources, competence, training and awareness for things like fire awareness, evacuation, etc. And 8 is very much about planning and operational resilience. So emergency preparedness, do the plans work? Have we tested them? Are they recorded? And can we improve? And are there lessons learned from any maybe poor evacuations? So you can start to see how we're using a tried and tested framework and applying it to the FireIE structure. Performance evaluation is a critical part, but because a lot of you are going to be responsible for facilities management, you're going to be responsible for procurement, you're going to be responsible for organising contractors to come on site to maintain assets as we move forward, whether that be fire engineers, whether that be electrical engineers. You're going to have a whole raft of individuals that are going to contribute to this system. And I think that, to me, is one of the biggest challenges when it comes to the golden thread and the information exchange. It's making sure that we are in a position where we can allow access to all of these different stakeholders, whether that be your fire risk assessor, whether that be the individuals that are conducting the tests, monitoring of your extinguishers. They need to be able to contribute, because it shouldn't be down to the FM manager or a few individuals to try and manage the whole asset, because it's impossible or a very difficult task. Built within that is obviously management review, internal audits, and then corrective actions and non-conformities. And really just to highlight, this is not a standard that has been published. This is simply how we've put a methodology behind the fire information exchange to enable us to achieve what we believe we need to achieve. So next slide, please, Anna. So understanding the methodology based upon the Plan, Do, Check, Act, what's the objective here? What is it we want to actually deliver? We want to be able to deliver a system that is fit for purpose today. There's an awful lot of asset management systems and risk assessment management systems or system software applications that are coming to end of life. We see a lot of CAFAN systems, for example, that may be on-prem based, database locally. We've got a whole raft of new web-based applications now with APIs and utilizing APIs, and we need to take advantage of that. And I think the other key thing is for our users of FireIE to be able to customize the application for their purposes. So not having to rely on software support necessarily and high-end coding to be able to make minor tweaks to the system. So making sure you have a user-friendly, customizable dashboard that gives you a good, positive user experience and a seamless way to onboard your critical contractors, your critical suppliers. And the key thing is an ease of integration. As I've said, there are very advanced already building information modeling systems out there. There are other applications, and I don't believe that there's going to be one size fits all. I think the only way we're going to achieve what's coming close to the golden thread is through APIs and integration. The other key thing that the elephant in the room is AI and the impact AI is having on all of our lives. So simply put, integrating what I call a secure AI assistance within the platform that will be basically trained on things like the pre-planned document B, the latest BS standards around emergency lighting, fire door checks, ironmongery, all of these different facets. We can use AI to leverage the outputs to make us make better decisions. So implementing those AI-powered assistants, but security is key, especially in the framework that we operate now. Most organizations recognize that we're in a very volatile environment when it comes to cyber threats. So we need to make sure the system that we store on these applications are secure, robust, with good information security protocols and also good SOC 2 arrangements and disaster recovery. So the security and compliance element of our system was key. And then it's really making sure we optimize it for fire in the sense of making sure that the system achieves what it needs to achieve. So next slide, please, Anna. And I am pushing through this, and this presentation is not to go into any great detail in relation to the software specifically. We'll be certainly doing tutorials, or we can do demos of the system in much more a deeper dive for those that are interested. But this is really to give you a bit of an overview as to how we're using and how we intend to use the system. So you'll see there's a Scan Me QR code. One of the key things that Marcus has highlighted is that first bit of information, the criticality of the information. And we're not suggesting that people scan QR codes when it comes to fire exits or evacuating a building, but it's more about the minute the fire command turn up on site, at the front of the building, there's a big fire notice with the Scan Me QR code. If they scan that QR code, that will instantly take them to all of the relevant information, the key critical information that the incident commander is going to require, i.e. building layout, where are the wet risers, where are the dry risers if applicable, any particularly hazardous chemicals, is there asbestos in the building, all of the thing the incident commander is going to need. And going back to Mark's question is, yes, the information at the outset is the critical thing. And the last thing we want to do is send firefighters into a building and putting their lives at risk. But there is that obligation, legal obligation under not only the Reformed Fire Safety Order, but from a health and safety perspective, to make sure we protect all, from a duty holder's point of view, we protect those that come onto our premises. So having things like COSH registers available, that can all be achieved through the use and scanning of the QR code, as with things like basic building layout plans and the building itself. So the scenario would be, in the event of an incident, either somebody who needs to report, you'd have the critical information, location, address, but also the critical information would be there from the fire commander's point of view to start making the decisions and to start assessing the dynamic from a dynamic point of view where that fire is going. Next slide, please, Anna. I think the key thing, and to me, one of the key challenges through all of this is quite often when we review documentation on any management system, whether that be fire focused or health and safety or environment focused, the top level structure, top documentation, policy and procedures are usually all pretty well defined. Where we see huge challenge is the management of safety critical assets, or the fire assets in this instance. So the emergency lighting, wet risers, fire extinguishers, suppression systems, where are they in the building? How well connected are they? When were they last serviced? When were they maintained? How do we keep on top of it? Where's the planned preventative maintenance program? So within FireIE, we've really focused on not only having a strong asset management system that not only enables the manager or facilities manager to access this critical information, but to open up the access to your service engineers, your fire risk assessors, and other interested parties that will contribute to the effectiveness of the system. So we can, through the help of companies like Twindit and the integration of Twindit, where we can now start to utilise scanning technology of buildings internally and externally to give that critical information to the incident command when they need it. So in essence, this not only enables you to capture your fire safety assets, but all safety critical assets, but also to allow your contractors, your facilities managers, and those that are responsible for updating the information to do it dynamically. And this is, I think, one of the key advantages between the system we've got and a lot of older CAFAN systems that are purely based on individual licenses. Next slide, please, Anna. Talking about post-incident, the key thing is, yes, you can see down from the side panel here, almost the structure, the Annex XL structure. So things about the building assets, the fire audits. So we've got built-in fire audit tools that you can adapt and put yourself. You can put your own audit tools in there and audit checklists. But we've also got what are the objectives of the organisation at a high level, from a point of view of safety of the assets, but also the occupants in the building as well, and legal compliance and risk assessments, risk registers, fire training. It's all in the framework. But we also have all of the risk registers and legal registers, not just from a point of view of fire risks, but also the environmental impacts that could result in the event of spills down waterways, and certainly those areas that are maybe of special scientific interest. So the FireIE system is not only designed to help pull the asset management together, but when you're doing your audits against maybe particular assets, whether that be under pure regulations or whether that be under specifically the reform regulations, you're going to be able to identify the legal compliance, but also you're going to be able to evidence the service maintenance, test and inspection calibration, if applicable, when it comes to those critical assets. And also the framework is adopted from ISO. So if you already have ISO management systems in place, you can almost adopt it as part of the framework. Next slide, please, Anna. So as I said, we're now able, and we've partnered with people like Twindit, who are experts in doing building scans, whether that be high-rise buildings internally and externally. And the advantage of the Twindit is this model can be made available to incident command way before any incident. So as part as to what Marcus said is assessing risk. Part of their obligation is to assess risk of high risk buildings and to understand the evacuation procedures. They can now do that through remote desktop audits of the building and the premises internally and externally. And I'll show you a quick demo at the end of this. But it's really from a point of view of what happens after the incident. There's going to be a whole lot of information that we're going to need to get rapidly together to suit the insurers, to suit the fire investigators. As part of our own investigation, we're going to want to see what went wrong, why did it go wrong, and how do we prevent that reoccurrence? So the monitoring of safety critical assets, the management of the outputs of the fire risk assessment, the sharing of tasks, because let's face it, managing a building in its entirety down to one or two people is just not going to cut the mustard. It's a much wider role and responsibility. And although you will have the duty managers that are overall responsible, for example, of managing the asset, we're going to rely on good information coming in from those engineers and from those contractors and those critical suppliers and stakeholders to ensure we've got a grip when it comes to legal compliance. So FireIE is designed specifically to meet the risks and to identify the risks and mitigate risks, but also to comply with the evaluation of legal compliance. Next slide, please, Anna. So as I said, and again, as Marcus highlighted, there is to the right, you can see a fire evacuation plan. If you scan that QR code, it will give you a brief overview as to what can be achieved by simply scanning a code, maybe on an entrance or entrances of a main building in the event of a fire breaking out and being reported. But I just want to show you now how, with technology from Twindit, how we can integrate and conduct desktop risk assessments that can be shared between the fire authority, stakeholders, other asset owners and building owners in terms of how we assess risk and identify where assets are. So if you just want to play this quick video, and then we'll take questions.
Let's run through how using FireIE allows you to conduct virtual tours from your desktop and locate asset information remotely. In this tutorial, we'll explore building assets and show you how to integrate virtual tours into the platform. You can tag and locate asset information by clicking on the highlighted icons. You can also conduct fire evacuation plans and personal emergency evacuation plans using the 3D twin and connect assets on the ground. FireIE connects your fixed and mobile assets using QR codes. Contractors, team members and service engineers can update asset information instantly on the go. Simply share the app with contractors who can then scan the secure QR codes to update asset information, report defects, and receive notifications of required actions. Click the Add Asset History icon to report asset status, create actions from inspections, and maintain asset history throughout its lifecycle. Service engineers can upload inspection and condition reports from their mobile devices. Facilities managers can access connected service records instantly. FireIE connects building stakeholders from a single platform, allow a single source of truth no matter the size or complexity of the building. Manage tasks, invite contractors and manage workloads through our automated platform. Set reminders, email notifications and status progress from our customizable dashboard. Never miss a service or inspection again and gain instant visibility of your fixed and mobile assets. Access the platform from your mobile and allow contractors to update asset status on the go. Simply scan the QR code and notify facilities of progress reports. Share risk assessments, RAMs and permits to work from any device. Never get caught out on audits again, and automate your facilities and fire risk management.
Okay, so next slide, please, Anna.
Let's run through.
Hopefully that's given everybody, and it's been a very, very quick overview because I'm conscious of everybody's time. And I know it's been at a very fast pace, but the focus has not really been on the technology per se. It's been more about the structure and how we look to develop a system that's going to help improve fire risk management and help to contribute towards the golden thread. Is it 100% perfect? I don't believe any software system ever will be. I think it's continual development, continual improvement of the software, and as we progress and as things change, we can add on and build features into the system. But hopefully everybody would have taken a few things away from today, but would just really now like to open up with any questions that anybody may have. So over to you, Abby.
Yeah, we certainly have. Thank you. And like I said at the beginning, there will be a recording that will be sent out. So thank you very much to you both. Also, reach out to us. We're happy to help. And if you do want a further demo or have specific questions or specific requirements, then obviously we are more than delighted to help you with that. So let me just ask, we've got a couple of questions here. So does the organisation in Southeast Asian countries bother to go for external audits? The regulations and fire safety laws are not being treated seriously in Southeast Asian countries, which is an alarming concern.
I think that's very much, we take on board, and some countries and areas are better than others. What the system really will ask or force organisations to ask themselves is, are they actually complying? But no, totally take on board the question that, there are different standards and different levels of standards when it comes to meeting legal and moral obligations, let alone legal obligations. So a great question, but unfortunately, I think we're still a long way away from being in a world where we can say with hand on heart that our buildings are safe from a fire perspective, because we're just not there yet.
Okay, thank you. We've got a couple here from Malcolm. Thank you, Malcolm. Is the compliance element related to statute or code, and or can it escalate from statutory minimum to good practice codes as opposed to starting at the code, which is not statutory? But then hang on, and then again, the phrase legal compliance can be and regularly is misunderstood as it's the primary and secondary legislation that is mandatory and not the codes.
Great question. So really, we would start at the mandatory, to be quite honest. We would be looking at what's the statutory requirement, what's the mandatory requirement, whether that be under pure or the regulatory reform. And we would highlight that on the general business risk register and legal register. And really, the system will allow you to track in the same way that many of you already probably do in Excel format. It'll enable you to track where you are against your legal compliance, whether statutory or regulatory. But also, if you are starting to use approved codes of practice, for example, or ACOPs, you can use that as part of a risk mitigation and control. So yes, it does it. We can take your existing Excel risk registers, legal registers, import it into the system, but I think more importantly, put it on steroids by you being able to then assign actions, monitor and track actions when you assign people to do certain roles. So hopefully that's answered the question.
Super. And then Philip, can you thank you, sorry. And Philip, thank you for your question as well. Can you provide details on whether the FireIE asset management platform includes integrated contractor management capabilities? Specifically, I'm interested in knowing if it can verify contractor qualifications, track their performance, and ensure compliance with safety regulations. Additionally, okay. Go that bit, and then I'll add the next bit.
Yeah, so again, a good question, because I don't believe there is going to be any one system. I think the golden thread and what it's looking to achieve is a great goal. But let's face it, we're just not there yet, and the technology is just not there yet. And there's also a lot of organisations that have already heavily invested in, whether it's building information modelling systems or any other system. So we're going to rely on APIs to be able to drag the essential data, because it depends on what stage an organisation is, whether it's gone digital, whether it's still operating paper. But let's face it, a lot of designs are either missing or they're paper-based or they're going to be digital. And we need to be able to reach out and connect to all of these different systems. So whether that's going to be physical drawings or whether it's going to be through APIs with BIM systems. So yes, it's heavily geared towards integrations. It does integrate already with a lot of the biggest BIM systems, but also if it doesn't integrate, then we've got the capability of writing APIs as long as we understand scope. So yes, great question, because no one system, I think, is going to nail everything.
And then additionally, on top of that, does FireIE manage permits to work by enforcing compliance checks before insurance to guarantee that all internal safe systems of work are not only being deployed, but are fully auditable?
So if you look at FireIE and really imagine it as an army Swiss knife, or a Swiss Army knife. Swiss Army knife, that's the one I was looking for. We all had them as children back in the day. So yes, you can integrate a permit to work system within the application. Yes, you're going to be able to track, and actually part of the system already tracks competency around maybe expiring certificates, expiring training records, expiring competency records, licensing. So yes, it can do that. You can also then manage the work to permit as a bolt-on plugin effectively. So whether you want to plug in things like your ISO 914 standard, and then you want to plug in maybe, for example, fire risk management, and then plug in a module for permit to work, they all operate from the same hub, the same Swiss penknife.
Thank you. And finally, still on Philip's question, does FireIE offer advanced trend analysis tools that can help in identifying and predicting potential safety issues based on historical data?
Yeah, another really good question. So up until about 5 weeks ago, the answer would have been no, it doesn't do that. But now, and it's important that we talk about the AI assistants, because there's a big difference between an AI assistant and an AI bot. First of all, we will utilize AI technology that's already embedded within the platform to do that sort of high level overview. But also we'll be looking at introducing, and we are introducing, highly trained AI assistants that are secure, UK based on Amazon Web Services, the data and the IP is locked down, so there's no chance of it getting confused with other open source applications. But the key thing is feeding in good information, good information out. So we will be feeding these assistants with the latest information around things like approved plan document B, case history, studies, best practices, all from trusted sources. The outputs and the collection of data can be exported then into the AI assistant that will start to give you that high level trend. But I think it will take probably 12 months plus before you really start to see the value of the output of the AI assistant to give you an overview strategically, because we need to see the instance feeding through first.
Okay, I'm conscious of the time. Right, we've got 1 minute. Malcolm, again, is there an introducers program?
Yes, there is an introducers program. We are going to be releasing that, but yes, if anybody, and part of our strategy will be working with fire risk management teams, experts, those that see the value and the benefit in what we're doing. There will be a partner program and referral program. Absolutely.
Okay, and just one quickie that I just want to bring up. So Jake, thank you. Just super quick, what are the options for licensing? Because I know that we talked about contractors in there and making the system available for them. And I just wanted you to just whiz through that it's on data rather than licenses.
Yeah, cost. That's what it's all about, especially now where there's a keen eye from a CapEx budget, from an ongoing, everybody is looking and being forced to cut costs because of the economic climate. So we to a degree have come away from the user license model. And the reason we've come away from the user license model, I'm quite confident that those that are using the system every single day are quite happy to pay a license fee. But if you've got a contractor that only comes in once a year, maybe to service the fire alarms, and they're going to be using it for 1 day of the year, we can't justify that type of or a license cost. So it's simply done on data. And a bit like a mobile phone contract, you pay as you go. We've got fairly good information now as to what we think people will burn through on data, and you will have a peak in use of data, getting all the assets on the system, then it will drop and level off. So what we tend to do is measure it over the first 12 months, 3 years, and then you've got control over cost, you've got control over usage, and you've got control over the spend.
Fabulous. Right, okay, and that's almost just a diddy little bit over. So thank you all for attending and for your questions. Anything we've not got round to, I will respond back to you. Thanks very much. And if you've got any questions, then please do reach out.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks very much indeed. And if anybody needs anything, give us a shout.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.